And that'll work. Okay, sorry about that. Kind of having some fun getting this together today, but we are on. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you liking our channel and subscribe and tell your friends. We're going big time. We have guests now. This is Creed, our Bullish Bears Creed. Legendary dude. We're going to call him our legacy because he's been with the BB from the beginning and he's back in the action now. This is his first external stream to the public here that we're kicking butt on. And of course, we have Matthew Tuttle and myself, and we're going to go throw some shade at Cramer together. And we figure 3 of us cracking wise is much better than just 2 of us cracking wise. Let's get him.
Yep.
So he's pretty much called buy everything this week. Some thoughts on that. I got to get the list up here too. We got to get the Cramer tracker list to everybody, but I'll pull it up on my phone here and kind of look it over. He has essentially said buy everything. He's like Pfizer, NVS, Nvidia, Dell, Meta. I mean, just to name a few, ABGO and ISRG, which is a surprising one. We'll get to that, but it's been pretty much buy everything. And here's our first Cramer bar I looked at was CRM, and that made a beautiful measured move down this morning. Nailed the target. Great short. And for now, we'll look later for a Cramer bar on that one. But let me dig into SPY real quick before we do. SPY is just kind of wandering in a zone. Got a basic range. We scalped the crap out of it this morning. You can tell my chart's got more lines on it than the 70s coffee table, as Creed would say. That table's a party at this point. But we made some really nice measured moves down in that channel, hit our liquidity zone, bounced like a red rubber ball right out of it like we expected. Perfect bear trap, if you will, and the reversion target's about halfway done. I think that was a good long off the bottom there, and we'll call it a day at that point. Let me move into the single grid so we can go for our watch on Cramer's aspect here. Give me 1 second to pull up the YouTube channel and verify that it's working right. There we go. Hey, we got viewers. Hi, guys. Hit us up in the comments if you want to shoot us a tick or two. Don't be afraid. Don't be shy. All right, move out to the 2 hour. So how's everybody else's week going?
Yeah, can't complain here. Nvidia going up, Apple going up, Tesla going up, regional banks going under, all sorts of good stuff.
All this.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening throughout the week on here as well. And, I've seen a lot of people liking to discuss the whole Roaring Kitty side of things with the GME. That seems to be the hot news that's coming through on that. I'm very curious overall if we're going to end up into another scenario. Even Cramer was making some commentary on that before, but I'm wondering if who outpowers who on this one? Are we going to see the Cramer kiss of death on GME here, or are we just going to get a really, really good short squeeze out of that? I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think Roaring Kitty's more powerful than Cramer.
Yeah, he's got the money.
I love, was it, I forget which house it was, but even they were saying the Roaring Kitty stream was an insult to the capital markets. I mean, we're starting to see some feathers ruffled on here once again. I'm very curious how that's going to impact broader markets as well. I mean, flow is flow when we're coming into the markets here, but starting to see that type of commentary start, especially as we're going into what is typically a slower portion of the year when it comes to volume. I mean, we may see this this singular class become the new biotech side of things when it comes to volume.
I agree. I mean, that's just pretty much in the cards for everything in alignment. I've been trading the parallel to it, though. I've been trading AMC a little bit of all things, just because it gets affected by the Roaring Kitty thing, and at the same time, it's not direct. So it's just getting a little flow, and it's more easy to chart and scalp for me. But I'll wait till he gets the short squeeze going on that.
I haven't been trading either one, but we're going to try to get some levered single stocks on those 2 names.
And hey,
so we'll see.
Roaring Kitty, if you're listening, I know a guy who can help build a really cool ETF based on Roaring Kitty picks. Just saying.
I will definitely do a Roaring Kitty ETF.
That'd be awesome. I think that would be popular too, because it's got all the flow it needs in its own natural state as it is. Oh man, hilarious. Looking at Nvidia here, I mean, we've basically made the 1.5. We broke above that liquidity zone that we mapped out last week. We held that key pivot right in between the liquidity zone and our halfway pivot. So it was just right up in that upper quarter, consolidated, eventually broke to the upside. I think we'll finish that measured move today. It's kind of looking likely. We can probably see it right up to about the 130, 131 level by the end of the day, I think. And of course, what did Cramer say? He said, buy it. We got a little bit of a pullback on that, but I think it's held that pivot at 127.90 pretty well. That's right about just under half a measured move. Think it'll fly up to a 2-for-1 and hit the 130s, or we think that's going to be a pullback eventually first.
I mean, I think it's got to pull back eventually, but there's no stopping this name. It's just crazy. Just every single day.
Just keeps on melting up, man. And a full move from back here on that low on the end of May here. We're kind of looking at a primary there, and it accumulated, so that secondary target would be right up in there, the 130s. 135s.
I mean, Wall Street keeps getting totally stuffed with this. We had another counterparty come to us yesterday and say they can't, firm-wide, they can't buy any NVIDIA now.
Ran out of liquidity for it, and the risk. Yeah, you were saying the risk guys came knocking on the door.
Yeah,
that's got to play hell when you're watching it melt up. But then again, I mean, as long as their position's still profitable, don't complain. No one's going to listen.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, that's the thing as well as we're seeing flow. I mean, obviously, as stating there, we're seeing demand is outpacing supply on this, but it comes into are we going to see when the bean counters on the inside are rebalancing everything? Are we going to see them starting to taper off from some of the lessers? I mean, we know that AI as well has been a big conversation when it comes to the flow. So maybe some of their AI stocks that are just laying flat, or maybe even some of their transports that are laying flat, they peel that off and they're trying to then balance to get into NVIDIA for something that's moving up to balance out. I mean, across the board, we know that most of your funds, both of your everything else, are if they're in the double digits, they're doing very well, but most are still staying on the singles, if not possibly negative as well. A couple on neutral there, but it makes me wonder as we're getting to that mid-year rebalance if they can get into NVIDIA as it continues to push up. But with this lack of supply on that, what's going to be their saving grace?
That's kind of a stalemate between institutions and retail at that point, because the institutions have locked up a bunch of that float, I'm sure, and the risk guys are knocking on their door going, hey man, do something about this risk. This is an outsized position. I gotta wonder when that grab starts to happen. So like if they start to rebalance, I know retail is going to snatch it up and melt it up even higher. That's just kind of a no-brainer. But for now, the volume we're seeing on this melt up it's literally just changing hands between retail. So I got to wonder where the middle guys are going to come from on this, and that's where the liquidity grab would be. So we're going to probably see some volatility towards that mid-year, I think, and that's going to be a good thing because it needs to either pull back or just rip a rally out. Either way, it's got to go somewhere. It can't continue a stalemate for long.
Yeah, it's been interesting. It'll continue to be interesting.
That's for sure. And now Cramer's flipping the script, so he gave it the kiss right here. You can see that red bar right there. Let's look at a couple others. He said buy a whole bunch of stuff, 12 stocks and all, so I'll try and rip through as many of the more important ones as we can. Texas Instrument doesn't really impress me much, but it did finish a nice 1-for-1 measured move after all, and it came right back to the mean here. I marked it as a red pivot, and there's your Cramer bar. He said buy this one. Right back to the middle. Can this thing trip the wire and go south? I think it's going to revert one more time back to like 197, 198-ish before it does that. But I don't know that it's very interesting for many other people to trade. It just doesn't have like sizable enough moves to be really worth trading, in my opinion, at this point. But look at the rally to the left on the daily chart. I mean, that's been a great investment until now. And Cramer says buy it right at the wrong point. I think he might have top ticked that one, being honest. But
yeah, I do love pullbacks and uptrends, especially after a 52-week high. But I mean, like you said, the stock tends not to move a lot.
Yeah, it's just not a high enough percentage swing for the day traders or the swing traders to really take much interest in it. So this is an investor holder here, and realistically, the options chain just doesn't produce enough yield on the premium for me, even being interested in wheel trading it. So it's like, it'll move. It's pretty easy to predict the possible outcomes on price action, but for the most part, it just doesn't have that swing. It's got to have a little more range than that. But Cramer said buy it. We definitely got the Cramer bar.
Yeah.
Another one he was talking about, this SWKS. I don't know, man. This one's kind of been interesting and off and on, but it hit an angular, and then he comes out and says buy it. So I think this is going to be a little parabolic and possibly get a pullback and test that one more time. Worst case scenario, it rejects here and goes for a full mean reversion. That one's got enough range to be interesting. And
I'd look for a pullback here, though. I wouldn't be buying it after this big. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 big up days in a row.
And they're big gappy up days too. They're massive bars. So
yeah,
I would definitely not underestimate the Cramer kiss of death on this one. It could easily come back for a full reversion trade. So it might present a good short pretty soon here. But it's a risky one because it moves in big bounds. So I'd definitely be nimble if you're going to scalp this thing. And this morning we had that run up and pull back to support, and it's testing the limit now. Typical harmonic says this is going to hit the bottom again one more time, and we'll test and see if it's going to revert or not. So definitely be nimble if you're going to try and chase Cramer into this one. Same with Pfizer. Oh, that's another one he said buy. There's your Cramer bar again. I love saying that. It just has a good ring to it. Cramer bar. We need to get that published. If you're listening at the Urban Dictionary.
Yeah, now this looks like a nice sell, especially if it breaks through the 50-day.
Yes, sir. And it's got a full measured move target right down to like $26.50. Can we see it melt through that 27 support area first where it wicked to this morning? Yeah, we got to see some liquidity there, but I like a good short on this one. It looks good. And
I like 25 for a retest.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that one too. And I'm going to bring something in that's always a big, controversy. Both sides on that is the typical 10-year and 15-year seasonality. When it comes to that, I mean, if we look at the typical seasonality for Pfizer there, all the way up until the beginning portions of July there, we typically see that it gets a little bit of movement on it, but looking negative over all, usually around the tail end of June there, it gets a little bit of a pop, but maintains pretty neutral overall. And what we're seeing right now is that camel hump in the center is normal, so that would lend me to believe that this getting down into that 25s and possibly even high 24s there is a almost of a no-brainer move for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, you look even further left on the weekly chart here, you look way back in the COVID days, you got all this hype pushing the vaccine stuff rising right up. It's just repeating market structure. We're down in the consolidation zone after the market peak. So we expect a wave to come back down, test support, and then maybe later we'll get the squeeze and start to go and revert this trend. But for now, it's bearish, baby. I wouldn't buy it here. That was a top tick. Shame on you, Cramer. Let's see. Here's another one, and I talked a bit about this morning. PG&E. I have friends who made life-changing money shorting this not so long ago. I mean, they went full into this. I mean, they sunk every bit of liquidity they had shorting this, and then they changed their lives. Some of them made 8 figures. Looking at it now, it's just market structure at its finest. I'd expect it to pull back and find a mean one more time. But one thing I did mention, this is one thing where it's a company that's based on a crumbling infrastructure. It's mainly California. They basically burnt down California at one point. That's why it just went to hell in a handbasket, so to speak. But now it's like consolidated to the point where I wonder if you start seeing Nancy Pelosi buy this, if she might know something for some subsidies coming in.
Have you been watching my filings?
I did. I was just going to kind of lead into that with that. If you start seeing Pelosi buying PGE, yeah, you want to follow that because she knows something at that point. And if anything ever needed some government subsidies to rebuild the infrastructure, that's where it's going. And I've been watching that for years and saying that for years, but it's eventually going to be right. I'm not going to pull a Cramer and say buy it now, but you know, it's one of those things where when it starts to get that pop, you just keep an eye on Pelosi's portfolio and you'll know. Speaking of which, I'll let you lead a little bit with that. I mean, that's a great idea for an ETF.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think so too. You've got, a group of Congress people who are obviously trading on inside information. So, and they have to report their trades. It might as well. They got better information than we do.
That's for sure. And eventually, eventually we get news of it and we can take action on it. But for now,
Yep.
I mean, Cramer said buy it. There's your Cramer bar again, and we've reverted the mean between that Cramer bar and the low. I wonder if this is going to start going into maybe a short-term trend to test the mean here, up to like 1860. But I would be cautious if it's going to go anywhere near that because I can almost certainly see it coming back for a reversion. Long term, it may end up being another short again and running back down to that mid-level. Market structure just has a way with things, and this is typical. Can we see it rip out of here? It's possible. It can fail the rest of the market structure and just say, okay, well, hell with you. I'm going to revert this, but that's a long time coming. This is a monthly chart I'm looking at to see that target, so I don't see it in the near term. Kramer, wait, too soon, Junior. And then we've already covered NVIDIA. Novartis was kind of another one. I don't have a lot of interest in this equity, but it's like just a kind of a slam dunk reversion trade to 102.80. I think from 105, it's not interesting enough for me to even be interested in trading. But it's following its basic technical analysis. That's all I can really say about it. Cramer said buy it. Oh, that's going to get liquidated for a quick minute, and we'll see what happens out of it. Be patient if you want to trade it, but not much interest to me. Meta, that's probably the elephant in our room here. I tracked that trade pretty well. There was a pretty obvious measured move setup. It went exactly to that target, and now it rejected the top of it. And then Cramer says buy it to boot. There's your Cramer bar coming into play. Short-term reversion to $500.50 is pretty eminent. What's your take on Meta? I think in the long term we'll see some bigger moves, but for now it's going to be in flux, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it really hasn't done much, and I mean, you've got what, February, where are we? I mean, you had that sell off, and then it's just come back to where it was. With Apple ramping, with Nvidia ramping, if Tesla keeps going, just the fact that it's Mag 7, might attract some interest, but not my favorite right here.
Oh, same. I think it's just kind of ripe for a reversion trade myself, and that's
If you look at it too on the angle momentum for the daily here, we can see that we had that high on Meta that was what 533 flat there. Now, since we had that gap in the early part of May to the downside, they filled in that gap, and now we're basically back into that box from that channel where we are before the movement down. If you were to go ahead and do a little bit of TNA on that side there, you'll see our central node we're working on. If you have that low gap and then our high section now in an angular channel, you'll notice that we are oscillating right on that angled point higher there. So for our intersection of price there, it looks like we've got about another month before we'll actually see it get to that intersection for a possible breakout. But as of now, I can actually see this chopping more than anything, and really oscillating on the really working around that 475 to a 500 area as it's moving on its averages there, but also just on that natural price action there. I mean, the low of that prior channel before the gap down was 47976 roughly there, and then with a high on that at that 530 flat. So that would be the channel I'd be watching as we're waiting on that next next volatility movement for them to come through, be that what it may.
I agree. It looks like it's set up for a mid-July or late July swing. It's just another harmonic to me. Yeah, I kind of like it. Eventually, we're going to make some good moves, but for now, it's just going to chop around and consolidate. Agreed. And of course, we did have a Cramer top pick there. So another one in the book. Man, imagine that. We'll go over the sell list too, and then I wanted to revisit something before we end, but we got a couple more to look at first. ISRG was another mention. I just really get nervous when I see something like, well, let me put the monthly chart on. Just a rip-roaring rally. I mean, parabolic city. It doesn't remind me of NVIDIA as far as like the market just keeps ripping higher with it, but it's kind of obvious that it's eventually going to give us some really outsized moves. It's just I'd love to see a consolidation first, but we just don't really get them. I know people who trade this very well. I just never really had an interest in it because it's just very gappy, very wicky, very hard to chart really efficiently. I mean, you can make some pretty good assumptions like for mean reversions and such, down to like 417 and so. I just don't know that it's going to really be something that's outside of being nimble and day trading it worth investing in. And then you got Cramer saying buy it.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's also not an area that I want to be in at the moment either.
No, for sure. I mean, it's like you look left a couple days here on the 5-minute. You got a nice little flag for me, but we know the 60-40 rule and we know where the reversion target is. So, I wouldn't invest in this thing myself. I would scalp it occasionally and maybe day trade it, but beyond that, I don't like it. I really don't like that parabolic move that it just keeps making. So, kind of off my radar. Let's see.
Great.
Couple mentions on here. We got Fang, which is, I guess you could call that a Cramer bar. Let's look at it. Yeah, it faded that reversion. We're looking for a base trade down here to like 187, 188. It's already at 188.80 for the day. Another one, just a good day trader, but not necessarily a good investment or swing trading stock, really. I mean,
to his credit on this one, the caller asked about Devon. He said, I don't like Devon. I like Fang better. Devon's getting its ass kicked.
True. Yeah, he did. He did say sell Devon, and I kind of agree with him on that one. That's a good kudo moment. I almost.
Yeah, but he should have said sell Devon 10 points ago.
True. I was on the verge of writing a text block on my chart that says kudo, and then I took it back. So. As far as Fang goes, it's a lot more choppy. It's a lot more hard to read. Let me go and check out Devon real quick to compare. Devon's a little smoother. I like trading that better than trading Fang, but that's just my opinion. It's just much easier to map. I can see that one.
If Devon came back above the 200-day, I would really like it here.
That'd be a good undercut and rally point, and it's reverted that steep, trend. It's right at that number, and it's on previous support. So if we do see a reversal here, it'd be a good time to buy. But for now, half a kudo because he said maybe sell it. Should have said sell it 10 points ago, but you're right. Sell it now. Yeah, you got a little reaction to that, but that game's over. I would say look for a buy soon. Just my personal opinion. And then, let's see here. He said buy Dell. I would wait a minute.
I'd hold off on Dell. They've got some things that are supposed to be coming through here. I'm really curious though. On a lot of people think that Dell is only the computer side, but on their enterprise things, as and I'll tie the election season into this as well with budget committees, and that's what I'm curious is how their enterprise side is actually going to start getting those contracts, getting that money flow actually coming through. And as we're starting to see government contract renewals for this, because budgets are ending, they're putting new budgets in, and then they'll go to spend more capital on that. How we're going to see these enterprise side of technology start to take off with those new contracts. So me, I'd be holding off on Dell just a little bit until we see where that spending is going to be coming through, or if it's not going to be coming through, because that is absolutely going to affect them from a fundamental side. But from a TNA's perspective, once the longer term investors, Dell being considered one of those longer term investment aspects, we'll start seeing people move around and move from Dell and over to IBM, over to other names on there if they're not getting those contracts through to support those minimums. So.
Agreed.
And I'll take the other side of that. I actually like Dell here. Nice undercut and rally at the 50-day. And own this one personally. So we'll see.
I mean, I do like it both ways because I mean I can see a reversion to 140 pretty imminent.
Jeremy, there for us both, balance it out.
Yep, let's balance it because there's also a bear flag. So, we've got this nice drop here. It's consolidated. It did break the angular, so it's got that little pop. I call this the pop and drop bear flag play, and I think I can see a reversion to 140 in the short term for sure. But if it starts to sell there, if they find liquidity and find buyers at 140, look out because that'll rip a face off to the downside pretty quick. So I can take both sides of that trade. So I'll be the balance. I do like it long term. I'd like the bearish move to follow through and give some opportunity for some longer term stuff. And like I said, there's some contracts in the wings waiting on that. So I mean, it's got lots of things kind of in flux, and that's what I love about being able to take a technical analyst point of view from it, is that I can trade that. I can trade on my technicals much more efficiently than I can trade on any fundamentals, and I'm going to do it anyway. So I'll wait for that 140 push, and I'll see where it goes from there, and I'll see if we can get a good short on that, or maybe we can get a reversion. Who knows? But we'll wait and see at 140. I think that's where we're going to find liquidity for sure. Got time for maybe a couple more, so we got to be quick. Another energy mention from Cramer. He said, buy this one. There's your obvious Cramer bar. Holy smokes. Perfect 1-for-1 down right to 27 bucks. I didn't even map this one out this morning, but I didn't have any interest in trading it either because I looked left on the daily and go,
which is this, Cotero?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's his favorite energy. And this chart just looks like crap.
It does. It's choppy as hell, but it's got a little rhythm forming here that I might like later. I'm going to map out the range on it. It's pretty obvious liquidity on those wicks there for those daily candles. So if we start to see it move from range, cool, we could get a good swing trade out of it. But yeah, I don't like it personally because it's choppy as hell and hard to follow. But eventually it's going to give us something good because, well, let's look left. Have that weekly chart out. Anytime there's range, it's tradable. So weekly says mean reversion sits right here at 26. So we'll watch and see. But Cramer definitely top ticked that. It's one of his favorites again. Ouch, man. That's a hell of a Cramer bar on it. But if you look at the price movement, it's not huge. You got $27 down from $27.75 on the open. Okay. It's a Cramer bar, but it's not a massive one. So eventually, maybe this will consolidate and give us an outside move. I mean, you do have a cup and handle on the monthly here, roughly. This is where the handle would be. So don't chase Cramer in this. Be patient. It will eventually give you something to work with. But for now, it's choppy as hell. Leave it to the day traders. Let them sort it out.
Yeah.
Moving on to the big elephant in the room, Broadcom. Oh, man. He said, buy it here. I'm just like, no! Can you agree to disagree on that gap? I mean, that thing is massive. But for Cramer to come out and say, buy it here, that just screams Cramer kiss of death to me. And I know it does to you too. But what do we take on that? I mean, fundamentally, it's Broadcom. How do you go wrong with Broadcom? Well, you go Cramer wrong.
But you don't buy it up 13% either. So
God, no. That's just way overpriced. I would love to see a reversion trade on this, but until then, I'm out of it. I'm not touching it.
Well, that's what I say. Be looking for something. Look for it to pull back. Or if we're up 13% here, look for it to pull back to where it'd be a notional up of call it 8, call it 9, something like that. But at least get some breath into this. That way you can then actually get some value into this. I mean, even if it was going to trend higher, if we look back to the left here, anytime that Broadcom's ever gapped on this, it tends to actually get a sell-off period and then a statistical range for about 30 days
Right.
on that. So if you're able to scope that out and run those percentages back, and you'll see on here that it looks like it's getting about a meander of, yeah, right at about 50% of the gap. So whenever we gap on there, yeah, look for it to come back about 30 to 50% of what that gap is. That would be the low of your channel. And then as we start to see that pivot higher on there, then okay, start to scale in from there. But that's still a duration hold at best on there for any, I mean, yes, you could do some internal stuff with it, but I see that more as a longer term way to balance out a portfolio than it would be, because I need to look at the internal volume for day-to-day volume on that one, what its RVol is. But right now, yeah, I do not see it as like a day, but I could see it as someone wanting to establish this as a something to add to the portfolio once it's balanced back down, and then maybe even selling a few positions here to collect that theta, due to the fact that it historically ranges after that big gap, and it ranges for an appropriate amount of time.
Right. Agreed. And like anytime it has a massive gap, it tends to, literally hit that 30 to 50% back. Yeah, I'm just out of it though, because I just really I missed the boat back in my early trading days on this one altogether, and I'll be the first to admit that I missed a hell of a rally from then. But now that it's just gappy and making these massive moves like this, and then Cramer comes out and says, buy it here, I'm not touching that. Sorry. Not sorry. And then the other thing is he goes and sells Molson Coors. I mean, that's another one that's kind of fun. I mean, that's right.
Yeah, I just bought that one yesterday.
It's right at the bottom.
So, I did like seeing that that he doesn't like it.
Yeah, I think he's going to get burned on that. I think it's going to shoot for a reversion to like $56 pretty quick here. That's just where I see it. I got a red line pivot on there because if it breaks this, sure, it can go lower, but it's right at the bottom tick where Cramer would say sell it. So it's looking like a buy so far. We'll wait for a reversal and go with it, I think. But yeah, I know it's why would he say buy Broadcom at the top and then sell
because he's Cramer.
Coors at the bottom, right? And if you're looking in the fundamentals, and I don't do that much, but you look in the fundamentals and like, okay, yeah, you're right on the fundamentals for now, but eventually the market tends to take a favor on things. So like when things are looking like they can't get much worse, that's where the buyers are going to be, baby. When things are looking like, man, we're a little bit outsized here. How much better can it get? Eventually they got to pull back. It's just kind of a fundamental price action. We tend to do the opposite of what Cramer does sometimes because he's a fundamental trader. We're price action traders. So I get it, but it's
Cramer's a price action trader a lot of times too. He's just buying what's high and selling what's low.
True. That's true. He's got the inverse of everything we do. Which I mean, I wish there was enough flow to sustain SJIM. I really do, because I really love the concept, and it's
yeah. I mean, one day we may have to bring it back. We'll see.
And that's the other thing that we had a question this morning between Creed and I. We're like, Cramer's getting up there in years. Who's going to replace him?
Who replaces Cramer at the end?
Downtown Josh Brown, maybe? I don't know. We'll see. They got a bunch of people on that show who could replace him. Kathy Wood could replace him.
I could see Kathy end up being the one to replace on there too. So I think that would be an interesting arena to work with. I mean, what's ARK down now? I mean, since
like 17% year to date, with the market up like what, almost up 17% year to date.
I think I agree. I mean, Kathy would be the perfect continuation of that legacy.
I think so too.
We'll call it as Kathy.
What, like infinity price target on Tesla yesterday?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I gotta wonder, like, I guess weathermen are employed too. You know, who's running that show? I mean, it's effectively like you can't really win with that. I get it, but in the terms of where does CNBC go next? Will they ever be on board with us price action traders ever? I gotta wonder. I mean, big names are big names, but
Yeah.
we're the little guys and we're kicking butt with this. And I'm not calling you guys little guys. You're certainly not. I am, but where we stand with names like Cramer and Kathy Woods, yeah, we're the little guys. So where do we go from here? I think we just start our own network. To heck with a job with CNBC, unless you want to just take it for a year.
Should.
I'll give JC a call. JC, if you're listening in, buddy.
Right?
We could have our own YouTube network.
Yeah.
Be a thing.
We could just spin it off. So last thing I wanted to visit on Cramer, and this is something that I keep getting a chuckle out of every time I look at it, and I boasted on my my Twitter feed last night about it. It's like, how the heck does this go? So I had a real easy measured move, plotted out on this one, and 2 weeks ago, Matthew and I agreed this was a good buy at this point, and boy, were we right. Cramer said sell it, and we're like, nah, man, this is a perfect measured move setup, and it went up over 125% from there. In fact, we hit the 140% mark on this thing this morning. My gosh, what a smoking trail. I can't say this enough. Don't follow Cramer into a trade, and this is where your own due diligence is going to serve you well. And that price action nailed this one. I mean, we are dancing to the bank on this one, those of us who traded it. And we still have some members this morning that were just like dumbfounded on this move and still long on it and just going, man, I'm dancing. That's what I like to do when I say I like to help. And I know Cramer's heart's in the same place. He just wants to help. But dude, price action just trumps it all. We rule.
We're not sure who he wants to help, though.
True. Good point.
The road to margin call is paved with good intentions. I'll put it that way.
Yes, absolutely agreed. Oh man, this makes it so I can't wait till next week because we're starting to hit that point where there's gonna be some rotation, there's gonna be some balancing, and I think that fundamentally speaking, that's kind of the go-to in the market structure of things. Anything you guys got to mention for like something to look for in the near future with rotation?
Say that again.
If I'm looking at rebalancing and we're looking for rotation as the retail side is looking at it, we're looking into some of the big leagues rebalancing. We're going to see some rotation from that probably in the next month or so. Anything particular we want to be watching, like any sectors?
What I'd be looking at is AI infrastructure names, which rallied massively and are now selling off. At some point, those will find a bottom. And I was on Schwab Network talking about this the other day. I mean, we're still in the first inning.
Right.
I mean, when Google AI is telling you to eat rocks and put glue in your pizza, AI is not mature yet.
Yep.
So,
I mean,
we've got more to go there. I'd look at those names. The Law and Order names sold off big with CXW, the prison stock, and also TH. I'd look for that stuff bottoming, especially if Trump keeps leading in the polls, because those are all names that did very well during his first term.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'd buy Argentina on dips. I think the Argentine names are rallying today. I think Malay got some things through his whatever his Congress is called yesterday. So I wouldn't be buying them at the moment. But those are some of the main themes I'd be looking at.
Oh, for sure.
And right now, I'm keeping a close eye. I'm actually staying a bit seasonal on this one. That WASDE report yesterday was not the best in the world overall, but I am keeping an eye on softs, and I'm keeping an eye on right now. I really want to see what's going on with this whole cocoa and copper coming through and see if there's any continuation on that side of it, because from from a traditional sense on there, there's absolutely no reason it should be, but it is. So, that's the only thing, is that randomness within the market sometimes outplays everything on that side. So to see if that's going to be supported on there. I'm also keeping an eye closely now on if you're on the future side, the 6E. If you're on the currency side, keep an eye on that euro there as we're moving up and down with Lagarde speaking. So I'm keeping a close eye on a couple of the more traditional things. But from an equity side of thing, I'm keeping a close eye right now actually on sympathy plays like AMD off of Nvidia, because a lot of people are letting them go by the wayside, even though they're getting dragged up on that. So, yes, it's nice to have the, it's nice to have the big headline name right now, but if you're able to dip into some of these others as well, you're still getting great, great, great value on top of that with the same time extension as you would with your longer plays there. So,
Yep, I bought AMD yesterday, so hope you're right.
yeah, you and me both. You and me both, buddy.
I can agree with that too. I mean, AMD is like right in my red zone, I call it, because it's like kind of right at that reversion liquidity zone. And we did have a follow through on a reversal. It made it right to target on the reversion of this trend, more or less. But then it rejected and came back to support. And I think you might be onto something there. So I'm going to watch it over the next couple of days. If it holds this 158, 159 area, I like it. And I might take a long and shoot for like the 170, 180 targets. I'm gonna stand off on it a little bit and wait because I'm a little more patient. But getting in it around this area is not necessarily a bad idea at this point. So I can agree. And then I did take a position in IBM, and I've been kind of loading that boat, overall, and did some debit spreads, wrote them up, converted some of them to butterflies, and these are leaps, and hit that high right back here, and now I'm kind of sitting tight. I'm waiting to add a little bit more, but I added the bottom, and now I'm at the mean reversion. I'm kind of swinging on IBM as well. So some of the sympathy plays are just kind of lining up, and it seems to be kind of in rotation. And then you mentioned like some of the softs are moving around, and long term I can see some grocery price swings too, and then even short term grocery price. So a second ago I had Kroger up here. It's right about at a support point at 49.5. So I'm kind of looking at that as a reversion trade to maybe start looking to go long on it. Currently, I got some put debit spreads rolling on it. I'm about to close those, but that move has been made. So I'm going to watch for rotation in that sector around that point. Any other grocers out there? I mean, you kind of look at like Costco, and it's kind of the same deal. You're looking at just a little pullback. It's not as dramatic as Kroger, but in the short term, you look at the range here, and it's like, yeah, it can make sense going long on that later. But anytime you see grocery prices go up, you got to realize so does the margin on grocery income. So that's where some of those are going to swing. Can we keep track of cocoa and other prices of major commodities like that and kind of take a swing on that? Sort of the same way we take a look at copper for the general market conditions. Yeah, you can kind of weigh the difference, but there's going to be some nice rotation, I think, coming up soon. So,
And watch out for SPY right here. As we were talking, I bought some puts when it broke the lows, already up 15%.
Nice.
I'm gonna say I got some here on the NQ as well as we've been talking.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't even that Nasdaq.
Yeah,
I didn't even see that.
beautiful little break there. I'm short in at the 815 area.
Nice work, guys. Yeah, we're looking for a full right down to like 538.
Yeah, not only do we give people advice in chat, we're also trading at the same time.
Absolutely. We juggle it all, and then we do live streams in the morning with the Bears, and we kill it in price action in the mornings, man. We've been on a roll this week, and yesterday, Creed and I got together. I had 11 out of 11 trades profitable in a row yesterday. I was like in my zone. I was just feeling like king of the world. Today, I've been a little more standoffish. I've been just playing in the chop a little bit, but I'm still generally positive for the day. And I'm not in this move right now, but I might just jump in it a little late. But yeah, the price action is glorious on every time frame, and that's kind of what we do. we breed success here. So great minds think alike.
Love it.
Right on. Well, I guess we can wrap it. We're about an hour in almost. It's been great. We want to respect everybody's time, and it's just fun to do this every week. And I want to start running some more guests in here, and then I think eventually we got to start doing things on Tuesdays, and we kind of played with that this week. I mean, if you're on board with Tuesdays, if you got nothing better to do, we can just shoot it out there and start picking off some trade plans.
Usually around.
Sweet, man. Maybe I don't. What are your Tuesdays looking like there, Creed?
We'll get it figured out. Let's talk about it on the back end and go from there.
Sweet, man. We'll see what we can do. So thanks for joining us again, guys. Remember, tell your friends. We love your likes and your subscribes, and get us out there because we're doing good things for lots of good people. And in spite of Cramer, we still have fun with it too. So it's enjoyable on all three axes. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next week.